Hi guys, welcome to another episode of
Africans Living Abroad.
I am your girl Cindy, aka 𝙏𝙗𝙖𝙠 and I'm with my girl
𝙏𝙝𝙖𝙣. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another podcast.
Oh yes, we're very excited again because our topic is also as interesting as the rest of them. Today we are talking about parenting abroad. I'm sure a lot of us have kids here and some of us have brought our kids here, so this is a very important subject. And if you're not here abroad, you will also learn and take some notes so that you know what to do, whether it's your choice to bring your kids here or you rather leave them at home.
Yes, parenting. I am a parent myself, 𝙤𝙤𝙧. And parenting is not easy anywhere in the world. When we go abroad, it makes it even worse. Me as a parent, I do not even like being a parent because I find it too difficult. But I have ways in which I manage my child. For example, do you know that my child doesn't know that he's the only child I have?
Really? How's that?
He thinks he has other siblings because I want him to behave.
Okay.
So he thinks I have siblings that I left behind in Africa because they were misbehaving. So every time we are watching those BBC adverts with children with sweat and flies on their face, big tummies, I'm like, look at Gloria, your sister. If only she cleaned her room, I would have brought her here.
Is it working?
It works all the time.
Okay.
Look at Abraham, head in goats, no feet. Look at her feet, no shoes, nothing.
Oh my God.
If only he didn't talk back to me, he'd be here.
Well, as long as it's working, then that's okay. I mean, yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, well, I'm also a parent, as you know. I have two boys, and I've been a single parent since they were very young, and it has not been easy.
You've been a single parent since they were very young. When did you want to start being a parent? Or being a single parent since they were very young?
Since
Okay,
they were
I thought
young.
you were saying you've been a parent since they were very young.
And I've been a single parent
Okay.
since they were babies. Yeah, so
You have two.
I have two boys.
I did it once, I did it right. And I think people who have more than one is because they just don't want to spend money on toys. Like if you can buy toys, why do they need siblings? They have things they can play with. Why have another one?
Why not? I'm the only child, so for me it was important to have at least two.
Yeah,
I didn't
but
want
is it
more than
safe
that.
though? It is safe because when you have one, they can just do anything, kill you, and they know they will inherit anything and everything that you own. It's safe if you have more than one.
And also, my mom told me that boys, they tend to forget about their parents. Once they're married or once they're in a relationship, it's a goodbye. So I didn't want to be alone in a way because I knew that at some point they would say goodbye. So having two was only fair.
I feel like boys, they don't even wait for a relationship. Once they have their first pubic hair, they forget about their mother. They think they can just do everything on their own. They don't need you anymore, but they need you.
They do. They always do. But then it depends with kids because with my youngest, that is my baby. Like, I mean, he's with me all the time. And I call him, he calls me maybe 3-4 times a day, even more sometimes. We're very close. And then his brother is the opposite. You know, he calls me on special days like my birthday, Mother's Day, and Christmas Day. That's it. If I send him a message, I know he will not get back to me for about 3 weeks, sometimes 4. And it's always like, sweetheart, are you okay? And then he will come back to me and say, yeah, Mom, I'm fine. That's it. It used to hurt me, but I got used to it. I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I mean, he's old enough to live his life, but I never thought it will be like that. I always thought we will be very, very close, you know, because even when I was bringing them up, I used to tell them that every Sunday there was a Sunday dinner. But like, guys, when you're older, you do your things, but Sunday we're having a Sunday dinner. That did not last, you know.
And did you start experiencing parenting here?
Yeah, both my kids were born here. So, I became a mom at a very young age. But when I had my first child, I was married. I was okay.
So you went that young, we went
I was in 16, but I was in my early 20s. So I got married at a very young age. And it was okay, but still it was difficult because being young and married, having a child, you still want to go out.
What is a very young age? Because I know people who got married at 9. I know people who got married at 12.
Well, for me, 21 is very young. Because when I look back, I realized that, yeah, I was very young. At that time, I didn't feel that I was young. But as I got older, and then I realized, like, oh, my God, I was quite young. I still wanted to go out. You know, my mom refused to babysit for me, you know, like for a while. Like, she was like, nope, I'm not doing it. So, but then as time went on, she did babysit. But it was especially when I was going to a party, that was a no-no. You know, but if it was
just dress up like you're going to church and carry a Bible.
she knew
and
that.
And tell her you are going to church. And then go to the neighbor's house, change for the club, and go clubbing.
No, she.
You want me to teach you everything?
I think I need to take some lessons, you know, for my grandchildren this time because my boys are too old now. So I was actually lucky because my parents were here. As much as my mom refused at first, but after a while she was okay. So I didn't really have problems with babysitting and stuff like that. So I could do my things and then just drop him because it was just him, just one son at the time. And I was okay. And then it started nursery, and then it wasn't that bad for me because of my mom.
For me, I find that every parent goes through exactly the same thing, regardless of where they live in the world. It's the sleepless nights, the worrying, the crying babies, most of the babies. I was lucky, my son never got sick, never needed any hospitalization or anything. But it makes it worse when you don't live in your own country with your own people, because you don't have that extra help, that extended family. Where we come from, it takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
And when you are not at home, you soon find that this is your task alone. Yeah. And you're lucky if you have a partner, and a partner that's willing to help, that's willing to be involved. But in most cases, especially people married to other Africans, you find that they still want things to be done the way things are done at home. Only a woman does this. Only a woman can change a nappy. Only a woman can babysit. Only a woman can take the children to the park. But also still want the woman to go to and their kid to go to work. Yeah. So if we're doing the same 12-hour shift, we're getting stuck in the same traffic, and then when we come home, we must now be men and women in terms of responsibilities and roles. But when it comes to paying bills, we are equals. It becomes very difficult. That is why sometimes you find that our people end up sending their children back home, or you find that relationships and marriages don't last. It's usually because of the frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. Was your child born abroad?
My child was born in England, and I was 28 when I had him. I was married, and I had a very supportive husband, and he was my full-time babysitter, because I had told him that I will carry him for 9 months if he's going to babysit for 9 years. And we had an agreement, and that's how it happened.
So it went well. So you never had problems with babysitting and stuff like that. No. Okay, that's good. That's very good. I mean, I think we're the lucky ones because a lot of people have stories to share, I'm sure, and this is why we need to know your experiences being abroad and having a child, being a parent. Now, there's been a lot of stories regarding people bringing their kids from Africa to the UK because they think, obviously people will have different reasons, but the main one is they will rather have their kids with them. It's a better situation to be with their kids so that they can go to school. Education is free here, and stuff like that. So people do bring their kids for different reasons. Now, it starts okay, but the problem is because everybody is working and babysitting is very expensive. Now, you find that the child is at home alone most of the time. And they tend to make friends. Sometimes they're not good friends, you know. So there's so many stories that people have shared. Say one of them is that there's a friend of mine that I know that brought her son here, and things did not end well. The boy ended up in prison because he mixed up with the wrong people. And the people that he was hanging around with were not black. And he found himself alone in there. So now the mother is blaming herself. She's saying that maybe it's because she was never around. Maybe she shouldn't have brought him here. She's just got so many reasons why she shouldn't have. And she wanted to send him back, but the boy didn't want to go.
For me, I would not blame the parent, because as a parent, you want to be there for your children. You want them to be there with you. It's a genuine and valid concern to want your children to be there with you. And also, we come from different family backgrounds. Some people don't have reliable family members. And even if you do, you want to raise your own child.
Absolutely.
You want to see them growing. You want them there. There are people who've been here for 20 years who left a 2-year-old back home, and they've never seen them. All they do is send them boxes of clothes that the children don't even wear because they're not even in style by the time they reach Africa. So it becomes a big problem when we start being judgmental, also because every country that I know of, every country that I have been to, they have police, which means there is a bit of lawlessness in every country. They have prisons. Prisons are full of people. So your child could have been in prison in any country. We have problems with drugs. We have Nyayope guys in South Africa, all over the place. Your child could have been that, because there are people who've left their children back home, but they are regretting leaving them back home because they are thinking, if I had brought them here. But then those children who are left back home must also understand that some parents come here to give their children a better lifestyle, to be able to send them to better schools, to be able to build a home for them. Because some parents will be like, as parents, we make different decisions. Some parents will be like, I'd rather be homeless with my children next to me. And some parents will be like, I'd rather have my children have a good life, but not see me. Because there's nature, there's nurture, there's so many like ways of parenting. Some people would rather give away their child for their child to get a better lifestyle, to be exposed to a better life. And also bringing children here, it also has a lot to do with how much you can afford, where can you put them to live. Because the problem begins with people, which is an African mentality that we need to walk away from, just thinking that all white people have of a better standard than us, are of a certain class. A lot of our people live in the most rough areas when they come abroad. Just because your neighbors are white, it doesn't mean that your life has improved. It doesn't mean that they are doing better. So just because some people are living in drug dens, but because they think my neighbors are white, they think their lifestyle is better. Some people can't even afford to rent a place that will allow their children to have their own room. So the children are growing up frustrated. They're not seeing their parent. They don't have a decent home where they live. The parent is always at work. When they're not at work, they're sleeping. Children are going to schools where nobody wants to send their children, but parents are just happy. It's free. But even free education, choose a good postcode. Where are you sending your child? Which school? Is it just because it's in England, now you assume it's school? Have you even checked with Ofsted if the school has like good ratings? Is it a good school?
Yeah. But some people, I don't think a lot of people think like that I need to do my research. It's like, I'm taking my child abroad. I want my child next to me. I'd rather starve with my child. I'd rather be homeless with my child. So as soon as the child is here, you just find the nearest school next to your house without doing your research. As long as they're there, he goes to school, I'm going to work, we'll see each other at home.
And another thing that I've noticed is that as parents, especially African parents or parents of African background, we do not talk to our kids. You bring a child here, you haven't even told them that you now live with Uncle John. And you expect them to come here and just bond with Uncle John. And you haven't even told Uncle John that you're bringing your child.
Yeah, it's even actually very
And
dangerous.
it becomes very, very frustrating for both parties. And it becomes even more frustrating for a child because you've uprooted this child from a comfortable home where he had friends, where he had a lifestyle. And now they come here and they are confused. And you never ask them, how are you doing at school? How are they treating you? Are they able to pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Have they given you a new name that suits them? Because there are so many things that can be frustrating to a child. And because we are so busy with just chasing the pound, chasing the euro, chasing the dollar, we don't even have time to sit down and have good, decent conversations with our children. They come here, you yourself don't know your neighbors, and you're bringing a child that was brought up in Africa to come here and get used to that lifestyle that is frustrating you as a grown-up. Like, Tina, we used to get up in the morning, you go and play with your friends next door, you go and play with your friends on the streets.
Yeah.
We also used to, like, treating adults a certain way. And then they see how their friends interact with their parents. They call them by name. They call teachers by name, which is different from us. And like with us as Africans, we are so big on respect. We like to be like called auntie, uncle. Like that's why I don't date young guys, because me, I'm that woman who want them to call me auntie darling. Don't just call me darling. I want respect.
Exactly.
And then they come here and you still want them to behave like they're in Africa. It's a lot of confusion that happens, especially for those children who are brought from Africa. And then the ones who are born here, our children that are born here, we need to teach them about identity. Because they do not know. Some children were born here, they've never been to Africa, so they don't feel African. But here, they're never going to be treated as British or as American or as French, because they are not. But their passport says they are. So we need to teach their children that your identity is not based on the color of your passport.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to have them know who they are. Like my son is mixed race. And I've always told him, son, you are black. Because if the slavery bus came back, you're going to pick cotton with us. You might be promoted to making the T-shirts, but you're going to be out there with us. I don't want him getting confused just because he's British, just because he's mixed race, just because his father is British, because the world is harsh out there.
It's very harsh.
And I've always told him, now that he's a teenager, he knows. He will get into trouble. Children do. I got into trouble. I grew up in Africa. I got into trouble. There are things I did where I look back and I'm like, how did I survive that? What was I thinking doing that? So just because children are here doesn't mean it's the only reason they get into trouble. Sometimes it's just growing up.
Yes.
It's part of growing up.
Yes.
But he knows that when you do things with these people whose skin is not as dark as khaki, whose skin is lighter than khaki, know that you, from the age of 15, you are treated as a man. They are still treated as boys, even at 21. They'll be boys being boys, but you are going to prison.
Exactly.
So be careful what you do. Because you, just by the way you look, the color of your skin, you are intimidating. And we as black people, especially for us who are raising black boys, they are guilty until they prove themselves innocent. Whereas the other races are innocent until they are proven guilty. So we need to be honest with our children.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. It's true. Which is why I think people who are thinking of bringing their kids here, you really, really, really need to be careful. Do your research, you know where you live, because saying you live in London, London is big, and there are good places in London and there are bad places in London. I don't want to mention names because maybe someone lives there where I was going to say, but I'm not going to say, but they are bad areas. So you take your child from the suburb in Africa, the child is in the swimming pool, everything is there, life is good. You bring them here, they speak English, they don't speak your language. When they get here, the first thing they ask you where you're from. You need to know that wherever you go with your accent, you will always be African. You will always be asked where you're from. Number two, you need to tell your child the facts of this country. You need to tell the kids the truth, because when they get here, especially those who are brought up in a certain way, they forget that they're black. Because in Africa, they don't speak Zulu or whatever their language is. They come here thinking, oh, I'm going abroad. Now I'm in London or wherever abroad. And they take themselves as white. They will never be white. They will never be white. My kids were born here, and my son, my firstborn child, was always in trouble, and he was always a ringleader. He was always the one caught. And I would say, who were you with? All his friends, white friends, and they were never in trouble. And I used to tell him all the time, it is because of your skin. You know, you have to let your kids know. And going to work and leaving your children at home, it's not a good idea, because it's very easy to end up with the wrong crowd, because nobody is telling you or guiding you, telling you that, no, these are not the kids. Because when as a parent, when your child brings a friend, you can actually tell whether that friend is okay. And it's very important to know your friend's parents, where the child is coming from, you know, because you need to adjust. You need to make sure that your child is not going to end up with the wrong crowd. And sometimes these kids are very innocent. They're just following the crowd. But because of the color of their skin, they find themselves in trouble.
But when it comes to judging children based on their parents, that can be very confusing, very, very confusing when you live in a different world, in a different culture, in a different country. Because there are things that we find taboo in our culture that are normal in other cultures. Like there are parents who smoke with their children, who smoke in front of their children. There are parents who drink with their children. There are parents who believe, I must give him his first drink, I must give him his first weed, I must give him his first whatever. There are parents who give their children money as part of their, what you call this, spending money
allowance.
That you give your children allowance.
Yeah.
Me, I allow my son prayers. God will
No,
look
but
after him.
I understand. Yeah, sorry.
You get parents like that, and you can so easily start this thinking that those parents are not good parents. But sometimes it's cultural differences.
That is very true. When I'm saying you have to know your child, your friends' parents, I mean in a sense that you need to know where they live, so that if anything goes wrong, you know where to go. Because if you're not there, something goes wrong, you don't know where to go. You need to know, not necessarily to judge them like that, but it's important, because there are people that smoke weed in their homes. I mean, would you allow that? Would you allow your friend to smoke weed in somebody's house? Would you allow your kid to sleep at that friend's house, knowing very well that they're smoking weed, they're drinking every day, they've got dogs in the house is dirty? Obviously, if you're not at home, that is possible. And this is why, and you need to remember, I remember my child said to me, my son, not a child anymore, saying, because I used to say, why can't you just behave? Like, what is wrong with you? He would say, Mampa, you don't understand. There's another world out there. And I'm like, do you know, that made me think, like, do you know what? Actually, he's right. He said, do you know that I cannot go to the street because of ABC? These people are in charge of the street. I had no idea. So if you're always at work and your child is being adopted by the family on the street, the chances are your child would prefer to be there because you're never at home, which is why I think it's very important to know where you're from. Of course, you can't tell where your child goes everywhere, but at least have an idea. If something ever goes wrong, you explain to them and let them know that this is a different country.
If you could do it all over again, would you still raise your children here or back home?
Well, if they were born there, yes.
No. In this situation of you having had them here, would you, if you were to do it all over again, would you rather send them home to be raised back home?
I actually, in my situation, I did that.
Okay.
My kids went home different times, and they stayed for about 2 years. And then I think that was the best decision I've ever made, because they learnt a lot. They learnt about the Africanism. They learnt about the culture. They learnt everything they know. They can speak. They're not fluent as I am, but they can speak Zulu. You know, they know the culture. They know that we slaughter cows. They know that we believe in our ancestors. You know, they know these uncles. They know.
But can't you teach them those things?
I couldn't
here?
because you can't teach them here. They have to go to where the roots, where the roots are. So it was very important for me to understand. And when I say things and say we don't do that, they understand what I mean. Like, for example...
But if they can learn about Shakespeare and learn about Romeo and Juliet without seeing them, they can surely learn about our cultures without having to witness it.
Well, for me, it was very important to be there and experience it, you know, so that they can have that balance. Because you can tell your child this is how it is, but because they've never seen it, they were born here. So all they know is British or whatever they teach them. But they don't know. When you say, I'm going home, they need to understand what home means, because we're always going home. You understand? And now even I was so impressed. My son, we went to somebody's house and he was wearing a hat. He was born here, mind you. As soon as we entered the door, he took off his hat. And that's our culture. I was so impressed that he did that. I told
Maybe
him,
his hair was just itchy.
and having said that, he had a really a bad hair day that day, you know, because he's got big hair. And I was like, whoa, did you really do that? He said, yeah, Mom. I mean, you taught me if I enter someone's home, I have to take my hat off. Things like that. Because if you teach your child something like that here, and their friends are wearing hats in the house, they're not going to do it on their own and say, I'm not going to take it off. Nobody's doing it here. You understand?
With me, it was a bit different from the experience that you had with your children. Because I normally take my child since he was born, like we'd have his first birthday here, first birthday at home, you know. I've always taken him. But when I took him when he was 14, the aim was to take him to do high school in South Africa. And we got there. And because for the first time, he wasn't there on holiday. We were now there to stay. And we were staying in my house in Pretoria. And Pretoria is still majority white people. First day we went to a mall. It was like, Mom, in South Africa, how come all the black people are working and cleaning and all the white people are eating and shopping? That was his first observation. The second one was he felt really uncomfortable because it felt like we were living in prison, and we live in one of the nicest areas, the nicest gated estates. And he felt like for him it wasn't luxury. For him it was prison. This is a place where everyone in South Africa would be happy to get access to. It was like, how come there's a guard with a gun? In England, even police do not carry guns. You have a security guard with a gun at the gate. You have burglar bars. This beautiful house, you can't even see it from the streets because it's hidden behind the wall. Yeah, he was just not comfortable. In schools, he noticed segregation, even between the children. He just did not like it. And we were about to get him into school. We would go to schools and it would be like, did you see how black people are sitting on their own? Mixed race people are sitting on their own. This doesn't happen in England. And that's because I had allowed myself to listen to his views as well, to listen to him as well. So he didn't like it because that's not the world where he was brought up. And so fast forward, I ended up wanting to take him to go to America because where we live, it's very white. And I wanted him to also immerse himself in a black culture, learn about black people, make black friends and know who he is. He knows who he is, but like you say, experience is always the best teacher. And unfortunately, it's just as we began to settle in America, Cove decided to come. So for me, Africa didn't work. I know it works for a lot of people, but also it could be because I'm an orphan. As much as I have my aunts and they're very good, they're nice, we have no family drama, but it is different maybe when you don't have your own mother.
That's true.
but I was moving back home with him to be there for him, with him. He didn't like it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to languages, I still regret a lot of things. I wish I had taught him Zulu. I wish I had sent him home when he was younger to pick up the language. He can understand, but he doesn't speak it fully. Like he can fool you into thinking he understands, but once you get into deep conversation, you realize like this one is Fong Kong. And but when I was trying to convince him to learn Zulu, he asked me one thing. Where will it help me? Because even a Zulu teacher has to fill in English forms to apply for a job as a Zulu teacher.
Wow.
How is it going to help me?
Well, I mean, what was your answer to that?
I said it will help you so that you understand my level of madness. Because if you understand the words I'm saying, he said, I can see that with your action. I know when you pick up a shoe, I'm in trouble.
For me, because actually that happened to me as well. My youngest, every time I spoke Zulu to him, he didn't want to know. He used to say to me, Mom, stop speaking that language with me. I said, you're going to Africa. That language, you're going to learn by force, by fire. And he went home and he learned Zulu and he loves it. I mean, absolutely fell in love with it. Even the culture, he is so into it.
I think what happens with us as Africans, let me know, guys, in the comment section, your thoughts, what you think. We were brought up in places that made us believe that English showed your level of success in life. It was the measure of intelligence was how good you speak your English, how much English you speak. Yeah. So we grew up in that society. But now that we have people who don't speak English, don't speak good English, who are happy to speak their own languages, who are doing well, who are rich. Because previously you had to speak English to even get a job.
True.
You had to speak English to have like a certain level of success.
Yeah.
But now when our children go home and find people and they find themselves excluded, but not by people they look down upon, but by people who are of a higher level than them, and they feel like, ooh, me too, I need to learn this. I want to learn this. Yeah. It's not like when you take them to a situation, because we have people who don't even speak the language, couples who are both from the same country.
Wow.
From the same tribe, same language, but they don't speak the language to their children, and you can't blame them. Because also you don't want your child to be behind because they can't speak the language that's spoken by the majority in the country. And here also we have a lot of mixed marriages and relationships where people come from different cultures, come from different, like even the parents are speaking different languages. So it becomes more difficult to have to teach a child. With people like the Indians, they will have their temples. So there is like a society that lives within the UK that does things in the language.
Yeah, I was going to say, I disagree, actually. I think it is very important for a child to know their mother tongue.
I do believe it's important.
Yeah, and if you are a couple and you speak the same language, you come from the same country, and you're not teaching your child how to speak your native language, I think it's despicable, because that's how they get lost, because the child does not know who he is. The child needs to know where he comes from. That is why there's so many people here, their children are misbehaving because they take themselves as British and forget where they come from. And when they do go to Africa, they find it very difficult because they cannot associate with anyone because they don't speak the language. They don't know the culture because they are so British. And the child, it's not the child's fault. I blame the parents, because if an Indian can teach their child, a born British, they can speak their own language. Why is it with us Africans that we can't teach our children?
But
and
you must
don't
also
have
remember our history.
But you don't have to sit down and say, this is a bottle. No, when you're shouting as a mother, you shout in Zulu. That's how you pick up. It's not a matter of, I'm going to take you to a special school.
But it changes.
Just have to do it. I think it's unfair for the kids to not to be taught their language, because in future, you see, this topic really frustrates me when I see parents behaving as if English is the best thing in the world. It is not. Even French people, at least as much as they don't like English, they struggle to get to speak English, but they speak their own language. But only Africans are the ones with the problem.
But don't forget our history.
What is?
We were taught that English was the measure of intelligence.
Okay.
So we need to unlearn a lot of things, because if we don't unlearn, we cannot have room to learn the new things, to accept the new things, because we are teaching our children what we think will be best for them, what we think will be good for them. And even me as a parent, that day I got my British passport, even my dreams started coming in English.
Well, as an adult, you have a choice to do that. But my point is, do not hold back just because you think your child. Yes, okay, fine. You have to speak English, but the child needs to know who am I? Where do I come from?
You say a lot of children are in trouble because they don't speak the language. What about the children who are in prison in Africa? How about the children who are in trouble in Africa, where they live within their own society, speak the language?
What do you mean? What?
Because you suggested that a lot of children whose parents are raising them abroad are in trouble because they haven't been taught the language.
No, it's not about the language. It's got nothing to do with the language. That's totally different. The language has got nothing to do with it. I was just saying that children who are brought here, they end up being in trouble because the parents are not there. The language is totally different. Yeah, because obviously, like you said before, you can as you're growing up, we've been teenagers, you get into trouble anywhere. You can get into trouble anywhere in the world. It's not because. But another thing that people need to understand is that when you come here, you think nobody's looking at you because people mind their own business. That's their culture.
Oh, they do not.
Oh, they do. They know your business.
They do not mind their business.
They don't.
They are minding yours.
You will look at it because back home, you can, when you're passing the streets, you can say, "Hey, Tay," it's like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm going to town." Here, it's not like that. So just because the doors and windows are shut, it doesn't mean they can't see what you're doing. If something happens there, the neighbor will be the first one to tell the police that there was a grey car at this time. This person came out, and this, so they know. But then when you come here, you don't see that. You just think, "Oh wow, I can get away with everything because no one is looking at me." But when you do, because in this country they follow you slowly, my friend. You can commit your first crime, they look at you. The second one, they look at you, and at that time they just want to see how far you're going.
So at what number do they catch you? Let me see what number I'm on.
Oh no, they will catch you. So I mean, a lot, especially when you're a teenager coming here, you get confused. Because I remember when I got here, I was very confused. I didn't know what was going on. Like I was, even the weather for me, I couldn't believe people go outside because it was too cold. So imagine you bring a 18-year-old boy or girl, for that matter. This is your school. This is how you're gonna make friends. I'm going to work. Here's your food. And then the child start now to learn on their own. So whether it's a good friendship or not, it just depends how the child go.
And when I'm Sindos, having raised both your boys here from birth, looking at different stages of raising a child, like from being a baby, nursery school, primary school, which stage did you find most challenging?
Oh, God. First of all, I had cesarean for both of them. So when they were born...
Hey, proper foreigners. They came out through the window. They didn't even go using the rights immigration channels.
Yeah, so it was very challenging, especially with my firstborn, because like I said, I was a bit young and I didn't know what to do. And it was very challenging. And when he started nursery, it was okay. It was okay. And I have to say this, I love my boys very much, but I have to be honest. The first one was the one that really gave me problems. The second one was just chilled, so I really didn't have problems.
First one did the problems for both of them.
I love him so much. But yeah, he's the one that was challenging, It was quite hard. It was really, really hard with the first one. So I would say, yeah, it was just difficult until he turned about, I think, 22. That's when he calmed down. But yeah, it was very challenging. And being on my own as a single parent, it was so bad because I couldn't turn anywhere. I mean, nobody was willing to help. You know, I knocked on all doors, but the help wasn't there. It was just, they just see a black child who's just being naughty, raised by a single parent, and forgetting that I'm a very strict mother. You know, they know that mom, but he was just not listening. You know, and I don't want to blame him to friends. It was just him alone. There were times where I would be so mad. I hope it doesn't listen to this. But there was a day that I decided to lock the house. I was like, okay, you're not going anywhere. I took the keys. So I had a front door and a back door. He was upstairs. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stay. We're not going anywhere. Do you know he went downstairs after like 2 hours? He went to the kitchen to get food. I can't stop my child. Okay. And he's wearing shorts. It's freezing outside because he used to wear shorts in the house all the time. He went downstairs. I saw him going downstairs. And then 10 minutes passed. Okay, maybe he's eating there. 30 minutes. I'm like, hold on. I went downstairs to check. He was gone. Gone. I have the keys. Guess what he did? He threw his clothes outside the window.
That's what we did, even
like,
in our
no, I
times.
never did. I've never done that. I've never. No, not me. For me, it wasn't. It was very hard for me to do.
The minute
things
you
like
said he
that.
went downstairs, I knew exactly what he had
Oh
done.
my God, I couldn't believe. And it was freezing. So he dropped his clothes. He jumped out of the window. He disappeared.
I would have gone for 9 days, come back and
Listen.
get proper punishment for a proper crime.
I could not believe it. I just could not believe it. So that is why it's very important not to judge because you don't know. And I'm a very strict mother. You ask them, they will tell you. And me as an African woman, I used to
But also being too strict sometimes can have a negative.
I was not too strict in a sense, but I was that mother that I wouldn't let you get away with things. You know, I needed to teach you as an African mother that this is how I was raised, and it worked for me. And if I say left, everybody goes left. You're not going to choose right because you want
Yes,
to.
dictator.
Yeah, I mean, but then I was not that strict because, I mean, I wanted my boys to grow up with me and be their friend, we do things together. So it wasn't like that, to your room. Like, no, we did things together. We had games, we did things, but he was just a different child. Would it had been different if he was in Africa? I don't know, but being here, did it add that it behaved that way because it was here? Maybe. Because it was just, just whatever, So, and the funny thing is when I went out to ask for help, they thought he was just okay. They didn't see anything wrong with him.
He was just being a boy, just growing up.
Yeah, but I thought he needed more help, professional help, because he was not behaving like a normal 12-year-old or 8-year-old, When you're 8 years old, you mean you're being naughty, you're doing stupid things, not like, when he was 16, he went to visit his dad, and it went on a Friday, and early hours of the morning on Saturday, I heard him come in. I was shocked. I was like, what are you doing here? Oh no, Mom, I didn't want to stay there, so I came home. I'm like, okay, guess what? In the morning, his father calls me. Guess what happened, Cindy? I cannot find my car. I said, what do you mean you can't find your car? He said, he stole my car.
He took it. You don't steal
He
from
said,
your dad, you
he said, he
take.
stole. That's why he said he stole my car. So what do you mean he stole he's 16. He doesn't drive. So he can hear me standing there, he's doing this. I'm like, okay, listen, I'll get back to you. So I'm like, is this what happened to the car? He just said, Mom, don't shout at me, please. He just took my hand, he opened the curtain. He's like, the car is down there. I'm like, you drove from Croydon to Northwest London? He said, yeah, Mom, I can drive. I said, how did you do it? He said, Mom, I've been driving since I was 12. I was like, oh my God, what about the police? He said, oh yeah, there was a police car next to me. And then I just nodded my head. I was like, you know what? This is just beyond me. You know, so he did things like that. I mean, did I send him to do that? No, of course I did not. So it's very important not to judge because you don't know the situation. When I was there, I was not an absent mother. I was always there because I wanted to raise my kids. I wanted to make sure that I was there, you know. So yes, things do go wrong, but then, you know, it is what it is.
With me, I found that the hardest part, number one, I was not too posh to push like you.
I was not.
The exit was the same as the entrance point.
It was this, my cervix did not want to open. That's all.
You will exit using the door that you used to enter. Thank you very much.
Do you know what? It's actually funny you say that because they used to say if your children are born with a cesarean, those kids are very different. And it's true. My firstborn, well, second one is okay, but the firstborn, every time, I remember we were on the 8th floor when we were staying in a flat, and he was 2 years old. And he said, I think I told my friend that he said to me, Mom, 2 years old, yeah? Mom, come. I'm like, what is it? Open the window, yeah? I want to jump, and then I'm going to take the lift upstairs. I'm like, excuse me? We are on the 8th
If
floor.
you had made him jump, you would not have had the problems you had when he was a teenager. See, God gave you an opportunity and you decided to do your own thing. If you had opened the window,
I said,
you would have saved yourself a lot of headache.
Oh my God. But I mean, it's good being a parent. These are the experiences now we can talk about and laugh
I did
about.
say he came out through the window.
He did. So that's why, exactly. So I was like, you're going to die. He's like, no, Mom, no. I'm just going to jump because I used to watch a lot of Lion King. You know, there was a lot of jumping around. Oh my God. Now he could see himself as Simba. He wanted to jump. I'm like, hold your horses. You're going to die.
With me, the most difficult stage was the nursery school part because it's expensive. People will say education is free. They never get to tell you that it is very expensive at nursery. I remember we used to pay about £256. I still have the receipts because my son must pay me back my money when he gets a job. 256 per week.
Really?
Nursery school is very, very expensive.
Which means it's even more now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very expensive. So if you are going to bring children, make sure you do the research. What age are they? Are you going to be able to, and what hours are you doing at work? Because you can't have them at nursery for 8 hours when you are doing 12 hours.
True.
You need them there for 14 hours if you are doing 12 hours.
Exactly.
And how much are you paying? Because you can't be paying the same amount that you are being paid. And also, like, the parents must understand that we go through the same problems. It just makes it more difficult when you are abroad. And fortunately, I'm a very dramatic parent. When he started telling me things like, don't come to my room, I was like, your room in whose house?
Yes, exactly.
You are ready now you are a man, you can have a house. I got my actor friends, I got them to wear like army uniform. And they came home. They said, you are a man now. You can make rules, we're taking you. He apologized, he never said that to me again.
Good.
They were like, they're taking him to join, and it was during the Iraq things. They were like, we're taking you, front line. Because you are ready now, you are a man. You're telling your mom what to do in her house. It means you are ready to fight for your country.
Exactly.
You want to fight your mom? Come fight for the country. And straightened up.
Yeah, guys, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And also would like to hear your stories. Are you thinking of bringing your kids here? Or do you have kids who've had problems? Or you've brought your kids here and you've never, ever, ever had problems and you think it's the best thing you've ever done?
And what are the tips you can give other parents? And also, when it comes to language, please share with us, how can parents be able to teach their children their mother tongue when they don't live with them in their native countries? How can we do that? How can we teach our children? And at what age should you start, and what age it becomes difficult? If there are any maybe apps, we live with apps these days that can help other parents, please comment section down below. And how have you overcome the problems and challenges that you've experienced here.
Exactly. I mean, before we go, I just want to say, for me, I would say, it to start teaching your child, your language, it starts from your belly while you're carrying them, because babies can hear. You start talking to your child, because I've actually experienced that. Like, I used to play a certain song when I was pregnant. I think it was Whitney Houston. And when my son was born, whenever he is Whitney Houston, he will stop whatever he's doing, because I used to play it a lot. So when you are feeding your baby, my friend, talk to your child in your language. They would definitely, because that's the easiest time when they're young, because they can speak 4 languages at that age. When they go to school, they're going to speak English. When they come home, they will speak your language. It works, but you're not going to wait until your child is 16 or 18. It's going to be very difficult. So I would say start at a very, very young age. And it's like I said, you don't sit down and say, sit down, stand up. No, you just talk to your child. If you say, go and get me something, they will know. Just go and get me something. Is this, mom? No, until they get it. That's how they learn.
But it all starts from respecting our languages and understanding that our languages are just as important. No language is better than the other.
Absolutely.
Because like I said before, we grew up being taught that there were languages that were better than others. I remember the first time I went to Paris, I was so excited because I thought French was a movie language. You only see it in the movies. I was like, oh, they're so smart here. Even their children are speaking French. Because I didn't think it was a language that people speak normally. I thought it's something that you only hear on TV.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to promote our languages and stop making our languages become those embarrassing languages.
Yeah.
Don't say this in these languages, and stop saying it's difficult. If you can say it, if they can pronounce Van Gogh, they can pronounce Velile. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Thank you guys so much. We will see you on our next episode. And don't forget again to subscribe, like, and share. It's been great.
Thank you. And comment down below.
Comment down below. Thank you so much, guys.